It's all your fault that my poor baby went on rampage in the classroom. Sorry, Karen, but I'm not allowed to intervene in this kind of situation. What? Don't lie to me. You're obviously a school employee. I've seen you many times before. No, I'm not. I work for the state justice system, actually. I will get you fired from this school, you liar. Now, for every like this video gets, one Karen will be kicked out of school. So please, smash that thumbs up and notification buttons. To the story. Old lady mistakes mugger as employee. I work for a convenience store that has a strict always comply with muggers policy. I think because it's cheaper for them to deal with losing whatever in the register than fighting a suit from an employee hurt defending it. I've worked here off and on for the last 5 years and I've been in the store for 6 robberies. They're usually pretty straightforward. Guy comes in, give me the money, we do, they leave, we call the cops don't do anything. We have cameras, but this neighborhood has such bigger problems they never follow up on petty theft. One of those times though, the kid didn't wear a mask, just a hoodie. Comes in with the hood up, young kid, couldn't have been more than like 18 to 20. He paces around for a while, I guess trying to get his nerve up. I figured he was an underage kid trying to work up the courage to buy some beer at first. It was really early in the morning and we were the only people in the store. He approaches the register and says he has a gun. Doesn't pull it out and was probably bluffing, and that he won't use it if I just give him the money. Talking all tough about, don't try anything today, I'm not the one, etc. I pop open the register and he jumps behind the counter to take the money out. As he's doing this, an old woman comes in. Now, I was getting really nervous because I didn't want the old lady to be in a dangerous situation, but before I could react, she recognizes the kid. She runs up to him and goes, "Oh, hello dear, how are you?" And the kid just freezes behind the counter, hands full of cash. She is older and I guess deaf, so she's shouting, "I didn't realize you've gotten a job. Good for you, dear. You know, I just saw your mama the other day and she didn't mention it." He's like, "Oh no, I don't." But she isn't listening. "Your mama never tells me anything." I don't work." "Oh, don't interrupt me, hon. Anyways, your mama never tells me anything." And she's just chattering on and she starts shopping. I'm just standing there frozen, waiting to see how this plays out, with the guy still behind the register with me. The kid was almost a foot taller than me, and I didn't want to get into an altercation if I could help it. She goes through and she's shopping and goes, "Oh no, hon, could you help me reach this please?" And he's like, I don't, And she's like, "What are you going to make me back here?" So he goes over and Dead Bud starts helping her get things from high shelves. She's like, "Is this really the best price you've got for this?" And he's like, yeah. While he's doing this, I call the cops. I think he knows I must have been doing that because he's been beyond antsy. At one point, he tried to bail, but she was like, "Hold on, don't clock out yet. I'll just be a minute. I want to see you at work. This is so exciting. You're all grown up." So he's standing there awkward and panicked, trying to make a decision. Eventually, she goes to check out, and I scan her items, keeping an eye on him. And she goes, "Oh no, can Noah check me out? He's my friend's son. I didn't know I was visiting him at work. This is so exciting." Wanting to keep things cool until she was out of the store on the off chance the kid did have a weapon of some kind or wasn't stable, I just stepped aside and let him check her out. He didn't really know how to use the scanner or anything, but he got through it, and she leaves. Once she's walked out, he runs out of the store and jumps into a car. He didn't get any money from us. It was another 20 minutes before the cops got there, so it wouldn't have mattered either way. But that was the most memorable robbery for me as robberies go. Not sure if this story fits this sub. When I saw this sub, I had to share this one. I mean, he technically was working. Kind of. Just not for us. Haha. Well, I truly hope he realizes what a close call that was and turns his life around. The second story by u/, Can You Find My Mind? Karen tried to get me fired and landed in jail with her kid. So this happened a couple years ago, and the school staff and police station at the school still have a good laugh about it with me every now and then. This story could fit in another sub, but I felt this one was the best. Now, I work for the state justice system in a diversion program for juveniles. Part of my job requires me to ensure the youths are going to school and not getting into further trouble. So, I tend to be at certain schools a lot due to some of the areas I cover being the rural counties with normally only one main high school. Often, I just meet with the family and youths at the school for convenience for different reasons while being supervised by me. Normal parents of well-behaved kids have often mistaken me for staff, and I found it easier just to direct them to the staff they needed. At this point, I never really had a Karen run-in, at least in this situation. In some rural areas, the alternative schools is still on the main school campus, but has its own small building where students are basically in a jail-type school. They cannot leave without a staff escort beyond that building. They have their own bus, separate lunch, and cannot be on campus after student school hours for any reason or participate in school events of any kind, or they face of being arrested for trespassing. Now, students can find themselves in here for many reasons, and the school will send students to alternative program for 45 days as an alternative to out-of-school suspensions. Then, there are students who are there permanently till they graduate for one reason or another. And finally, students who get felony charges in the community are placed here as well due to school board policy, though may or may not be a permanent placement. During one of my visits while in the alternative class, a fight broke out. Not being a school staff, I'm not authorized to intervene unless I'm being directly threatened. So in the CCTV footage of the classroom, you can see me standing there calmly, twice taking a step back to avoid being caught in the scuffle and looking completely unfazed. Now, to the untrained eye, this is how it appears. But the officer who reviewed the footage even noticed that I really was standing in a defensive tactical position. Mainly because this kid was just going crazy and was just swinging wildly at anyone that came close to him to help the kid he was attacking, and did strike the teacher trying to put a stop to the fight. So, once the situation was under control, the school and the school police officers go through the motions required, and of course parents are called. While I start my own reporting requirements for my job and work with the police doing statements, etc. In comes Karen, mother of the student Hulk, who just rampaged a fellow classmate and was now detained in the back of a police car, awaiting EMS to clear him before being transported to jail. Karen demanded to see the footage because she felt her child was being targeted by staff and police, and that he wasn't really the instigator but the victim. While watching and seeing that this wasn't the case, she changed tactics and decided to target me by blaming the situation escalating the way it did because I didn't step in before or during the incident to stop it. Now, as a side note, I had my work cell in my possession and was responding to a parent that was running late to see me, and I was in the classroom to escort one of my youths to the meeting room as not to take school staff away for other needs on campus. Plus, it's just faster if I go get them as I have clearance to do so. This Karen incident occurred in the dean's office, which is where I already was, and was asked to stay for one reason or another by the dean and officer when she came in to watch the footage. Altogether, this whole interaction after watch the footage was not even 5 minutes. K equals to Karen, M equals to me, D equals to school dean, O equals to school resource officer. Karen suddenly turns her head around at me in a quick exorcist style head turn and begins rudely yelling at me. Karen, why are you just standing there and not doing your job? Me, excuse me, Karen cut me off. I was honestly caught off guard by her that I didn't really process what she just said. Karen, You're just calmly standing there the whole time and didn't do anything to stop the fight. Why were you even on your phone? If you were paying attention, this whole fight probably wouldn't have happened. I want you fired for neglecting your job and not protecting my child. Me. Ma'am, I don't work for the school. Karen. Oh yes you do, and you need to be fired. I'm going to report you to the school board. Dean. She really isn't school staff. Karen quickly responds before Dean could even explain. Karen. Then why was she even in the classroom? Only school staff and the police officer can be in there. Officer. Listen, she's like me and... Karen cuts him off. And yes, she was crazy enough to cut off a uniformed police officer mid-sentence. Karen, that is a lie. I've seen her here all the time working and she obviously is not a police officer, so she is a school staff. Now, directing her rant at me again. You should be fired for laziness and causing this fight. Oh yes, somehow her child going Hulk smash on a fellow classmate and destroying school property in the process was now all my fault. While my brain was processing the stupidity that was being uttered at me in the volume and pitch of what sounded like a velociraptor scream, the dean and officer tried to calm and redirect this crazy Karen, saying many more times that I wasn't a school staff. And trying to explain my role was similar to the police officer in that I'm not employed by the school, but I do, quote-unquote, work at the school under the justice system and courts. I tried to tell her as well again that I didn't work for the school and that I wasn't allowed to intervene in this situation. Karen was having none of it, and it's that point was like talking to a brick wall in human form. There was a lot of back and forth conversations / velociraptor screams going on that the other police officer came to see what was going on and ensure everyone, mainly his partner, was safe. And that's when it happened. Karen, she works here and should be fired. This is all your fault that my son is being arrested. With his last proclamation, Karen picks the candy jar that was on the dean's desk and throws it at me. Now luckily I have fast reaction, but in the process of protecting my face with my hand / arm, the jar broke and cut me significantly. At least it wasn't my face that got injured. It's weird how crazy people have that uncanny aim when throwing things in anger to hit in the face or head. I've never been so smug watching police tackle a crazy person to the ground and handcuff them. Even though I don't work for the school, I am a state employee, just like school staff, and battery on a state employee where I live is a felony crime. Karen's screams at this point became just a bunch of nonsense mixed with cursing. To paraphrase it up, she should be the one getting arrested and fired. This is all her fault. She works here. So, Karen was loaded into the other police car and off she went with Hulk to jail for booking. In anticipation of a few questions readers might have, first, yes, I pressed charges and Karen spent some quality time in prison among other court requirements. Second, Hulk ended up being placed with family in another country I worked, and I got pleasure of supervising him. Hulk was actually a pretty decent kid. He had just a very bad day, and the kid he rampaged on was part of a gang that had been messing him, and he just finally snapped, hence me calling him Hulk in the story. He was successful and joined armed forces and still doing well in life and staying out of legal trouble at least. And third, my cuts healed and left minimal scarring. Fourth, I wasn't just smug, I had Scarlett O'Hara level resting B-face smile as they escorted her away and again at her court hearing. Well, good for you, and best of all, Hulk somehow surviving his mother's household. The third story. Karen sees me feeding my newborn and still demands I help her because her time is too valuable. I went to Walmart today with my wife and newborn looking for a bike for our daughter. To our surprise, the store was not very crowded, but it was still a very bit busy, as you can all imagine, due to the holiday season. We arrived at the bike racks, and my wife had the urge to go to use the bathroom. So I stayed behind trying to determine which one was more fitting for my daughter. Suddenly, the newborn wakes up crying and I start scrambling to prepare his bottle as it was time to feed. As good of a father as I believe I am, I could not find a ducking thing in that diaper bag, so the chaos was becoming real very fast. Enter Karen. Equipped with high heels, sunglasses, a hat worthy of the Kentucky Derby, and a dress straight out of a romantic scene from an 80s movie. Excuse me? Help me get this bike down. Excuse me? I knew she could not be talking to me because I was clearly struggling to open a zipper on a bag while defeating screams of my baby were driving everyone else away. Excuse me? Do you speak English? I took a peek over my shoulder and wouldn't you know it, Karen was staring directly at me. Are you gonna help me? I kept ignoring her and managed to get what I needed out of the bag while my son made his best attempt to break every glass in the store with his high-pitched screams. At that exact moment, my wife showed up and somehow I managed to no-curse to this lady out. In fact, I politely replied, "Can you give me a moment, please?" I finished preparing the bottle while my wife helped the baby, handed my wife the bottle to feed our son, and I turned and faced evil Karen. Karen, are you gonna help me? Me, did you realize I was busy with a baby? Karen, I don't have all the time in the world to chit-chat. Are you going to help me or not? Me, which bike do you want? Karen, that one right up there. She pointed at the exact one I had eyeballed when I first arrived. So I calmly pulled the rack forward, took the bike down, and started walking bike in hand towards my wife. Karen, you can just leave it right there. Me, oh, I didn't get this down for you. I got down for me. I'm buying this one. Learn some ducking manners, you old C-word. And take your ducking shades off. It's 7:30 at night. Karen, how dare you? My wife busted out laughing so hard that the baby started crying again. But this time, I didn't mind the noise, as it was blocking Karen's mumbling and swearing as we walked away with our daughter's new bike. Do you speak English, Karen may ask? Well, not for you, I don't. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.